Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of 10 Minute Tuesday. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe. In today's episode, I got my guy Rayfield Johnson Jr. in the building. Rayfield, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me on here.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time out. So we've done a number of these, so let's go ahead and dive into it, man. Rayfield, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, cool. So Rayfield Johnson, I am the U.S. Data and AI lead for manufacturing, retail, and consumer goods, which means that I focus on the data and AI business at Avanade. I'm actually out of the Chicagoland area, right across the border in Indiana, and I've been with the company for over 18 years, completely focused in the data and AI space.
Wow. So 18 years, you've grown. Like I looked at your LinkedIn before I hopped on here. I was like, man, this guy does a lot. But before you got to the role you're in now, at some point you had to get into data. So what really compels you to get into data to begin with?
Yeah, that's a good question. Coming out of college, I had really the background in software engineering and realized that I didn't want to do that anymore. I hate it. Kind of doing like the program aspect of it and the nitpicking of like web development. So I didn't really want to do that. I love the back end. I love how entities related to each other, how you were able to kind of gather that data, pull that data out and be someone big within the business because you were able to make sense out of just things sitting static. That was basically my first entry into the data side of things.
Wow, that's awesome. So really started on one path, but then move over and he's like, I love this. I'm going to go all in and this is what I'm going to focus on.
Yeah, completely. Maybe took too much of a leap and said, "Hey, I'm going to do data for the rest of my life," but it was a good leap. Yeah.
Love it, love it. All right, so thinking about this question, right? This is any job you've ever had, like whether it's middle school, high school, whatever you were doing. To date, what has been your least favorite job that you had?
Least favorite job. Probably right before I joined Avanade, working at Best Buy. I loved it because of the sales aspect of it and like being able to talk to people. But I think I was underestimated in the role, right? And that's probably the I've seen that a couple other times within my career, but I hate that feeling of being underestimated, knowing that you can do more, that you have more potential, but people are putting you into a specific area and only that space. So I hated that part of it. It did give me that opportunity to talk to a lot of people, but it was limited in what I could talk to them about. Does that make sense?
Yo, it makes perfect sense. I live with that monkey on my shoulder of underestimating and still that internal battle of I can do more, but then when someone tries you, for lack of better words, of you're really trying my skill set. I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So there's a philosophy on here we live by, or I live by, called failing forward, right? So you never really fail at anything. You just experience this to get you to the next place. So thinking about that, what's been your biggest failure, quotation marks around failure, and what did you really learn from that experience?
Well, I would say my biggest failure is not realizing the things that my grandma told me earlier would actually be part of my career, meaning like the closed mouths don't get fed. I know we all hear that as we're growing up, and we think, okay, that only applies to, when my cousin's trying to fight me for the chicken. But in reality, what it is in our professional world, it's, hey, they're getting ready to say this person's ready for promo. Did you put your best foot forward? Are you being quiet? Are you being too humble about your approach to things? And I think I would easily say that that probably is the biggest failure. That earlier in my career, I kind of looked at people going by me and not really thinking about, hey, I'm ready for that next level. How do I advocate for myself? Right. And the way that I've learned from that, obviously, is kind of putting myself out there. I think you've seen already, like all on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. If I'm doing it, I'm talking about it, I'm putting it out there. And the reason, not only from an organization standpoint, but also from my own personal brand of, hey, I'm that person that is associated with data and AI and reliable from an organizational standpoint. So I think that was one of those things I learned from. I realized it's not just the household that you learn these things from. You learn these in your career as well.
That's really great advice and it's sound advice, right? And I never thought of that analogy in a way for your personal career. But yeah, closed mouths don't get fed. Like raise your hand or articulate, all the stuff that you're doing because If you don't express what you're working on, it's hard to think that your manager or executive or whoever leadership knows the intricate things that you're working on.
Yeah, for sure.
So kind of a follow up to that. And like I said, the target audience of this is junior analysts or entry level people who might not understand what that really means, right? How do I raise my hand? How do I articulate what I'm doing? What are some processes or techniques that you learned along the way that can help that person who's trying to create that brand or that recognition, or even if it's internal, like what are some tips that you might have for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, I just got done doing a panel about this the other day, where we were trying to internally tell our organization, like people in our organization, how to get in front of everyone else, like the decision makers. I think the biggest thing that we came out of that panel is, realizing that no problem is too small. So even like you said early on, if you're a data analyst or you're a data like an analytics engineer, even the simple problems that you're solving with the technology, it might seem simple to you, but it's not simple to other people. And making sure that you're associated with that. One of the best things that we have right now from a social media standpoint is just the conversation threads, right? Being out there saying, "Hey, I solved this little, problem." It could be casting, the value of something from integer to, like, I don't know, string. Someone somewhere is having that problem, and you're like, "Okay, it's just a small problem. I don't want to put my name out there." Where there's like three other people that posted when you question yourself about putting it out there. So I think about those small problems, the visibility of kind of solving those small problems and how it makes you, build your brand as a problem solver as opposed to just someone who fixed one small thing. There are no small things.
Love that. Sound advice and a great reminder for myself, right? I think as people who are consultants or technologists or managers, right, we get so far in our career. I've been in this career for 10 years or 20 years, right? You kind of forget the things that are second nature that someone behind you might need help with on solving, and expressing that information can help the next person.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So thinking about this again, thinking about the entry level people who are trying to come out and break into the field, or they're just trying to get into the field. What is one piece of advice you give someone who's just starting out in their data career?
Hmm. Take chances. I know these kind of seem like very like high level, answers, but really taking the chances. I mean, I think majority of people who are coming out right now or even entering the working environment, they're hearing AI, they're hearing, Copilot, they're hearing these tools, and they think, hey, I got to be an expert in this, right? Take the chance to actually expand where you currently are and not feel like, hey, I'm coming back from a negative decline, right? You're actually everyone's building, everybody's walking up a mountain, right? So they all have to get to that point where we're at the top, right? Take the chances to learn new technology, take the chances to reach out to new people that you may have not had conversations with initially. And what I mean by that is that the problems that we solve from a technology standpoint do not mean the same on the business side. Our business impact is greater than us just saying one plus one equals two, right? Or us just putting a Python script together and saying, hey, look at this outcome. The business looks at it as, hey, I have actually been able to simplify my day through this automation that you put together, right? But you took the chance to actually learn that technology, learn that Python and or like a Power Automate or something like that actually would create a better automation for the business. That's huge. Don't think that because you're on the technology side that you're not really thinking business minded. Combine those two, right? Because they should not be separate. As you progress in your career, you realize it's not separate. It's actually just a matter of understanding versus a matter of where you're at.
I love that. And you articulated that so well, and I don't think it could be overstated that the business and technology are actually aligned. Like the major purpose of technology is to become more efficient so your business can be more efficient, or it could be more automated so you get time to do something else, right? But everything for the most part should be tied to some type of business outcome. So whether it's saving hours on this manual process, or we save dollars with this predictive analytics model that did XYZ, right? Somehow it should always be tied back to the business, man. So thank you so much for calling that out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just add on. The business is either going to be the ones who make or break your next project, meaning that if you have their buy-in from this first project and they understand the value, then they're going to invest in the next project. And then also the business is also going to determine your worth. If you think about it like this, so your output and what how it impacted the business is going to be the matter of, are you ready for the next level? Are you making an impact within the organization big enough for them to say you're ready for analyst to, consultant, or consultant to engineer, engineer to director, right? So just adding a bit more.
No, it's great. This stuff that people need to hear, man. It's the whole point of the podcast. So this is awesome, man. This is awesome. All right. So moving into the last part of this, tell me about the most influential people in your life and how they made an impact on you.
Ah, that's good. So I said this before in other podcasts, but my grandmother Ruby, she's no longer with us, but she was the one that probably the first one to get us a computer. And by us, I mean me and my brother. It's just the two of us. She actually bought us an old computer with a DOS prompt years and years ago. And I thought I was slick. All my friends had their CD-ROMs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there with a black screen just doing some DOS prompt work. But it taught me a lot actually. So it taught me, first of all, I don't need a mouse. There's a lot of different keyboard type things you can do, right? And then also kind of taught me, a bit more around humility. I would say, like, coming from humble beginnings, understanding how the technology actually is supposed to work, versus what we get on the output, on the expectations. I think that helps a lot. So I know a lot of the fundamentals, whereas my friends were, already on, I don't know, Office 97 or 95 rather. Um, you know, when they were working on that, I was working on DOS prompt, right? It's just kind of figuring out how things were interconnected. But I thank my grandmother for that. She actually was one of those old school like computers, right? That they kind of refer to for her organization years and years ago. So she was the one that was working on the computers, doing everything for the company, and she thought it was a good idea to get us a computer. So I thank her every day for that. Probably one of the most influential people from a technology standpoint. Then my parents, obviously, just kind of telling me, there's a lot you can do within your career. There's a lot that you can do, and it might not be where you came out of college with. Um, kind of defining their own path in the lab. So both of my parents worked in the chemistry labs, one for a steel mill and one for the government water department. And both of them, their degrees were in varying different areas. My father in hospitality management, business management, and my mother was a biochemist. But both of them ended up in the lab, both of them making huge impacts to the way our world works today. Can't go into details, but some pretty cool projects that I remember as growing up.
Love that, man. Shout out to Granny for the foresight, getting the computer, man, putting you on the map. I love it. Shout out to Granny. Shout out to the parents for saying, hey, anything is possible, man. That's awesome.
Yep, yep. I owe a lot to them, right? So you constantly make sure I give them something like, a good Red Lobster dinner every once in a while.
I love it. All right. I love it. I love it. All right, Rayfield, where can the listeners find you at online?
Mostly it's going to be on LinkedIn. That's where I do a lot of my work. And I'm probably one of two Rayfield Johnsons on LinkedIn. I think the other one's my dad. I don't know why he has one. He hasn't needed one for a while. But that's where you'll see majority of my posts are on LinkedIn. So look for Rayfield Johnson.
All right. Awesome, man. We'll have your LinkedIn in the comments as well. So make sure you follow him. And Rayfield, thank you so much for taking time out today. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it, man. It's
Awesome.
been great.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. And then, as I said in the beginning, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Have a great day.